Everybody. Happy New Year. I feel like I haven't seen you guys in forever. Can everyone hear me okay? Can you give me a thumbs up or tell me? All right, cool. So, make sure I get my chat open. All right, first, before we get into it today, I want to know, how was your New Year? How was your holiday season? Tell me in the chat if it sucked, if it was great, if it was whatever, if it was, if you're glad it's over. Let's catch up. We were so low key this year. I felt like I felt like I decorated for Christmas maybe 2 weeks before Christmas tops. I still never put all the ornaments on my tree. It was a very weird year. It's like flu. I'm actually honestly I love the holidays and I love the New Year season. I love my I hate January and the winter, but I do like it being my birthday month, obviously, and all that. But I, this year, couldn't wait for the holiday season to be over. It felt like such an annoying intrusion on the process of my year for some reason this year. I don't know if anyone else could relate. It kind of felt like, oh my God, and then now that it's over, it's like, okay, we can get back to it. And I know every year we get like inundated with the whole like new year, new me, New Year's resolutions, like all that crap. But I feel like this year it's a different feeling where it's kind of like a let's just get on with it, kind of get the ball rolling. So it was exhausting. What are you guys saying here? Fine, I had work on Friday. Well, isn't that awesome? And then it was exhausting. I'm not a big fan other than getting time off work. Yeah. I really enjoyed using my surgery as an excuse to not, sorry, I'm laughing the way that was written. I was not expecting it, but I saw this like reel where someone was like, what they saying? They were like, silver lining about surgery is you get like peace and quiet for a little bit or like something like that. And that's what that reminded me of. I hope you're doing amazing, by the way. I really enjoyed using my surgery as an excuse not to do so much and to nap a lot. Hell yeah. You actually rested. Amazing. Showed up in the middle of everything unexpected, like rude. No, truly. Why did the holiday season felt like an extra period? When you like start spotting in the middle of the month and you're like, what the fuck? Like that's what the holidays felt like to me. So anyway, instead of getting into the whole like, okay, guys, it's January 1st. Let's focus on New Year's resolutions. Let's focus on like all the diet culture bullshit every year of like, okay, it's the first January of your life. This is the January we're really going to make it. We're going to get super healthy. We're going to get into some big routine, in the gym. And what do we find that happens? By like February, it's like on the back burner, right? So we're not going to do that. I find in the neurodivergent community, at least for me in the past 10 years of doing this, it usually takes everybody, myself included, about a month for things to just become kind of normal again. Even if your life and your routine wasn't upset all that much by the holidays this year, it just feels like everything feels different. So it shows up in our getting through our transitions throughout the day, through our relationships with people, through our lack of desire to actually maintain those relationships that can happen in the winter when you don't really want to do much, all of that. It builds up. So instead of taking January to be all about new, 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 I'm going to focus on teaching you guys over the next few weeks, leading you guys, I should say, more into the realm of energetically, how are we headed into the new year? What's our mindset heading into the new year? What's that foundation going to be like? Because if we're going to work on goal setting, which I have planned for us in February, right? If we're going to be looking at big goal setting and doing a challenge and all that, I think it's important to take the month of January to really figure out who we're going to be going into the next year. How we want to show up, what our intentions are. I think we need to take that moment and really just breathe and kind of plan that out. And some of you might have gotten the jump on that already. I know I did. Okay. So today, you might have seen the topic is building your village. You're like, well, what the fuck is she talking about, right? Like it's the beginning of January. What do you mean? We're not talking about food? No. What we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about I want us to go into the next year feeling capable of maintaining relationships. And I think that that's really underestimated when you're dealing with work, neurodivergent, burnout, recovering from that, chronic illness, all of that. You have such a full plate. A lot of our social interactions and our friendships can really fall to the wayside. So I think it's really important that if you're going to build a new life for yourself in the future, there are going to be things that, some friends you might grow out of. And that doesn't mean you should just, like, oh, you had your shot at having friends as a young person and now you don't have a village around you because you've cut everybody off. No, as we grow, we will need different things from relationships. And some relationships will continue to grow with us and it'll be amazing. And sometimes we need to figure out how can I continue to expand that circle so I have that level of support and that level of acceptance at different seasons of my life. So, random topic, but not so random. It really does play into things when you have to deal with everything else. Having to shoulder everything is a really big stress. And sometimes even just having someone to talk to, someone to, go do something with if you want to or not, just having that person there and that connection there, it does more for you than you realize. So, okay, let's get into it. If you know me, if you've followed me for a while or you've been a client for a while, you know that I am really big into what is our energy like? What is our mindset like? You also know that I get annoyed by toxic positivity. Like I really think that there needs to be a level of reality and logic. We can't just be live in denial and chalking it all up to law of attraction. There's a balance there. But I do believe that the way we proceed through life and do things, it really has so much to do with what we attract and the results that we get. So, for example, if you think you're someone who always fails, you're not going to give your all to trying something new or trying to get better at something because you're already in that mindset of being someone who always fails. If you're someone who thinks of themselves as a problem solver, you might be a little bit more resilient in figuring out how, if you face a setback, how to turn that into information and change it going forward. So your odds improve because you're not bogged down by failure, right? And that's really more than just the woo-woo side of law of attraction and manifestation and all of that. It's not just like putting a penny in a wishing well and being like, oh, I'm just going to wish it into existence. A lot of it has to do with the work you put in, and how you put that work in will depend on who you believe yourself to be. So we're getting deep here, right? So if your friends aren't the types that are able to offer you support or at least peace, that's going to take away from that being that person you want to be to attract the things you want to attract. And some of you might be watching this and going like, okay, cool, I just want to talk to people. I'll just focus on what I have to do. I mean, it's impossible not to talk to anyone, right? And I do think that when you have the right connections in your life, they do not exhaust you. They don't drain from you. They're not a chore. It is something that gives to you as well. And that is a big help in this world. And they're hard to find. We're going to get into it. Okay. So your energy, your mindset, all of that, and I've been talking to people, especially with kind of just the craziness of the world and like there's a lot of negativity around. Everything just feels a lot more keyed up, right? And things are a lot, for a lot more expensive. The stakes are higher, let's say. And it feels like that pressure is bubbling up. It's bubbling up. And I was talking to someone and they said to me, and I've known this client for a very long time. I know them to be, always kind of the optimist. And they said, I'm having a hard time going into this year with an abundance mindset. And I'm not out of touch to understand to be like, no, you have to think and you will attract things. Like when you're struggling and you're in that place and you're really terrified of very real things, it's hard to believe that you have to have this abundance mindset. It feels irresponsible, right? Like, you're freaking out about how to pay your bills. What are you going to sit there and be positive and be like, it's fine, we'll find our way? There is a way to do that with it being rooted in reality. And again, you have two ways to approach it, right? So if you're having a hard time with abundance mindset going into New Year because you faced challenge after challenge, right? If you're going into it believing I can't work this out, Well, it's going to be a really shitty time here on this floating rock that we're stuck on, right? But if you go into it thinking, I can chisel away at it little by little, I can problem solve, I'll figure it out as we go. You got to live the days anyway, right? So by no means am I saying that, like, as we go over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about energy and what we attract and all that. By no means am I saying to just ignore reality and responsibility and not be afraid of things. But what I'm saying is, if you predetermine things to never be able to get better, you have guaranteed that. And that's what we're going to work on. Okay, let's get into it. Well, let me see what you guys said in the chat here before I get into it. Okay. Um, I talk to people less than ever before, trying to work on myself, and it's definitely time to balance socializing. Yeah. And what's funny is I bet a lot of the people, I've noticed this about myself too. I don't know if you guys can relate. It's almost like the more people you have to deal with in your day to day that you have to deal with, just the less people you want to deal with when you're off the clock, and I think that just makes sense. You can get like burnt out on people, let's say, like your social battery or whatever. Um, Failure for me isn't an option. I have to do and I have to succeed. I understand that. That is a certain it's a mindset you're born with, and then trauma really drives it home. We're like, I refuse to not be stable and secure. And that's really a hard that's an overwhelming burden a lot of times, right? To make sure that you're always maintaining that. And that's why you're such a resilient person. But it doesn't mean it's not heavy. So I'm trying to come up with extra things to make money. This preteen daughter spending is no joke. Listen, I wanted like a $40 pair of platforms from Delia's when I was growing up. And the stuff I've heard of on these kids' wish lists, like $110 skin cream. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That I can't even. The things I hear from clients, I'm like, no, absolutely not. But there are lots of ways to do that. I can help you figure it out, right? But that's the thing, you have these big these things coming up in 2026 that's like, who knew we'd be here? And we could talk about that all day. But at the same time, we view friends, we'll just casually say, I can't, it's so hard to make friends. I don't have time. But we're not doing anything, right? We're doom scrolling for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours at night, and then we feel like we have no time for anything. Why? Because we have, you guys remember me talking about time weight? How like certain things will take certain amount of time, but it feels like it could take hours and hours, even if it would take 5 minutes. It just feels like a heavier time, right? Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Returning something, I've used this before, returning something to Kohl's down the block for me. It takes me probably 20 minutes all in all to go drop something off at the drop off spot. And that's it. It feels like I have to have a full day available to go bring that freaking thing there because of time wait, right? So, things that I lost my train of thought. End of the day, the end of the weekend. But oh, when it comes to making friends and stuff like that, I don't know. I had a much better point. Time weight meaning like the weight, weight, like weight, like the heaviness, time heaviness, let's say. Certain things are time heavy conceptually, even though they're not in actual, function. And I think that we also do that a lot when it comes to making friends, right? So doom scrolling, this was my point. Doom scrolling for hours at the end of the day because our social battery is drained, and that's what we need to just zone out with. That through those 3 hours, that feels a lot more doable than saying I am going to create a Bumble BFF profile, which in actuality could take 5 minutes, but it feels like you have to plan for that. You have to, oh, okay, on my day off, I'm going to do that. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to clean my house. I'm going to meal prep. I'm going to make, you know, overnight oats. I'm going to do all these things. And then somewhere in there, I'll make a Bumble BFF. profile when it would take you 5 minutes to do it right now. Do it while we're on the Zoom, you know? Exactly, Chastity, emotional labor. So it makes that time that it takes, it feels a lot heavier. You feel like you can't zone out. Again, even though it's like beep boop, put your name, put your email, that put some pictures up, whatever it takes, but it feels because of the emotional labor that goes into it. So, Hillary, why does it go on the list even if it takes 5 minutes? It's these brains, man. And you got to remember this time of year, this is also why I'm not pushing this whole new year, new me crap I was saying before, because we're taking this month to readjust. So our brains are what they are. We can sit here and we can be, making a huge list of stuff we want to do and have all the motivation in the world. But is it realistic? Is it going to happen? No, we'll probably give up on it by February if we do that. And that's because of the time wait. Feels heavy, You're already behind. You're already behind your goals, everybody. It's already January, whatever. Forget that. So don't think of building relationships as labor if it's the right kind of connection, right? So let's get into my rules for the year when it comes to building my quote unquote village, right? So I have made a couple of plans for myself. I started last year. My goal was to make one mom friend because I love my friends that don't have kids. I really do. I love them. I prioritize and plan being there for them as much as humanly possible, right? But I needed somebody that I could just be like they could just get it, you know? Like you started your morning with shit all over you and a small child screaming at you. That's just a different level of understanding amongst people. And I mean, I could understand why that is, but I never really thought of that before. So for me, I didn't have down, I moved about an hour away from where I grew up, and that's where all of my long-term friends were, or at least my mom friends. So down here, I say down here, my new hometown, I wanted to build my network here. And I had zero energy. I was, I mean, I went through a really freaking rough pregnancy. I couldn't take my meds. So my ADHD was brutal because I had been medicated since I was like 21 years old, So it was really hard. I'm balancing, running a pretty large business, I'm balancing making sure I'm helping my clients, balancing so at that point balancing social media and marketing, and I have various different clients and programs as well. All of that, plus my own relationships, like I don't know, my baby, like my I was pumping for a year, or had Nick. All of this to say, it would have it doesn't didn't it sound silly to think like my goal amongst all of that was to make a mom friend, but my goal was really to make a mom friend that didn't feel like a lot of work. I decided I only wanted to speak to people who were also just as eager as me to speak with. I wanted people to speak with people that matched my cadence. I can get, in case you didn't realize this, guys, I can get pretty chatty. I can get pretty wordy. I needed to have people that didn't make me feel bad about that in my life. I, perhaps wanted to have people who were on their own journey to understanding their neurodivergency, diagnosed autistic later on in life, like certain things like that. I had never known to even look for in friends before. So how the hell did I do that while having the most full plate I've ever had in my entire life without the support of my usual, my meds and all that stuff, in a full blown time of transition in my life in every way? It sounds exhausting, but it wasn't. The most fun thing was I made my profile. I went on Peanut, which is an app. I'm a big fan of apps. I don't care. I don't have time, you know. I'm just maybe that's just me. I'm very forward, so I just want to be able to get on an app and make my profile as me as possible, almost in a way that you would think would like deter people. Like past me would have been like so nervous to be so straight up and real as I was in my profile, and that's how I knew I was doing it right. Like I wanted to deter anybody that could possibly not be the right fit at all. So I put on my profile, I have OCD, I have ADHD, I have chronic illnesses, I run a business, so I work weird hours. I don't always get weekends off. Like I put everything I could in this profile. And then I put all my little like weird things that I enjoy, some of my hyper interests, whatever. And I went into it thinking you can't lose, right? Someone sees it and they're not into it, they're not going to want to talk to you, so they're not going to swipe. So who cares? If someone reads my profile and they're like, oh, wow, check, 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 that's me too. Wonderful. But I am very much like a let's not waste any time. I'm told that's a very Capricorn thing, but I hate, and maybe it's an autism thing. I don't need pleasantries. Like, let's figure out if we are actually a good fit to just be ourselves around each other. And I had a bunch of people reach out to me, like in match. I forget on Peanut if it's like matching, like Bumble BFF or whatever. But I had a bunch of combos that just they didn't go anywhere. They weren't, I don't know, like they're probably lovely people, but we just didn't click in that way. And then there was like maybe two people that I did have like easygoing convo with. And I usually in the past would have just been like pen pal forever type, right? But I was like, no, let's meet next week. When are you off work? And I was the one that actually like took the reins and booked the time to hang out, which was really, you know, at that time, again, with my very full plate, unlike me. I actually think we met towards the end of my pregnancy before I went to the hospital. So we were already pretty pregnant when we met up at like we met at a restaurant for brunch. We had bellies and so we had a hard time fitting in the stall, like in the booth. And we continued, and now building on that relationship as I continued to get even more busy, postpartum, pumping, like I was saying before, coming back into, working on my business, working on coaching with everyone, 50 friggin' clients, like all of that stuff. Those relationships, because they were rooted in just such brutal honesty, they were fun to maintain. We just sent memes to each other a lot. We didn't really see each other for a long time after the first couple meetups. And then it just kind of became something we started seeing each other more and more. And then we were able to book like a day of the week, every week, where we get together and we hang out. We paint during that time. And both of us, we've always been artistic people, but both of us felt like we had lost that in ourselves after we had babies. We just had no time. And that's what everyone talks about, like, oh, I don't have time, I don't have time. So we both said, if it's something we're both kind of like we love doing, but we're putting off and we don't set aside time for it, almost like an accountability buddy, we only use them for things we hate. Why don't you use them for things you love? Why don't you have an accountability buddy where you keep each other accountable for things that bring you joy? So every week we get together and we paint. We paint. She's able to have a sitter come, which is amazing. Every Tuesday. So Tuesday she sneaks away for a couple hours and she comes here and we just bullshit and paint. And that's what works for us, right? So and we are able to completely, like, we're not masked in front of each other, like we're just weirdos, and there's not a fear of like, oh, am I going to be judged? There's zero time for that. I had matched with a few people like that and I just stopped talking to them. We didn't make plans to hang out, whatever. It's okay, be selective, but building your community of people who just get you, it's not going to happen unless you put out opportunity to meet those people. So what did I say here? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to continue in 2026. My rules that I'm going to continue building on those lessons that I learned last year in making those connections is I am going to plan a get together or a party, at least one per month. I kind of want to make one of those a CCA get together. So I will keep you guys posted on where and when I do that. But I want to pick one day a month, one get together, one party. I don't care if it's two people, one person, open ended, come by this place at this time. I'm going to figure it out. But I want to plan and just bite the bullet and do it one time a month. And I'm the kind of person where if I give myself parameters of how often I do things within that month and I give myself the flexibility to do it whenever works, I have a lot more success that way. So My first party I'm doing in January is my birthday. That's an easier one to plan, and then I'm going to build off of that. When people casually mention getting together, I'm going to get it booked. I'm going to push it to the point where the person basically has to make it obvious they don't really want to hang out for me to just like let it go. Because how often do you fall into that whole, we should get together? Yeah, we should. That would be so nice. Oh my God, how have you, like if you see someone or you talk to someone or whatever. And I mean, I'm guilty of this, and it's just because I have executive dysfunction. I'm just not like, I'm like, I would love that genuinely, but like just even stopping to put it in my calendar is not natural to me. So if someone else isn't like a forward driver of those plans in the past, I have really like it's just we haven't it hasn't gone anywhere. So, for example, we were talking before about like what your energy is what you attract, right? So I was doing all these notes and I've really been prioritizing this. And one of my friends that like she's a Facebook friend, it, it's been years. You know, she actually came down to my bachelorette party in Ocean City, Maryland in the past. Like, we knew each other really well and then just life took over. And she's married, she has a kid, and I have jelly and everything. And just earlier she was like, hey, I know it's random, but we should get together, get the kids together. We have now moved. I didn't know this. I'm like the town over from her. Before I was like an hour and a half away. So we didn't really have that time. So in the past I would have been like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great." No, I was like, "Okay, next Saturday, let's do it. Let's go get brunch. Invite your husband, bring your kid. I want to meet him. I want to see you." She's like, "My husband works on this day, but can you do Sunday?" I'm like, "Yes, done in the book." So that's my new rule going into 2026 when it comes to continuing to build my village or just develop the relationships I have already is that if I do want to hang out with someone, if we discuss it, it's going to get put in the books, right? Um, oh yeah, I wrote here, say yes to plans even if you're nervous about them. And don't be a flake. Don't say yes if you know you're definitely not going to go. And don't say yes if you don't want to hang out with this person. Don't say yes to be nice. But if there's any like nervousness in you of like it just feels like it's I don't know, no, screw it. Say yes. Figure out the logistics on how to make it happen after. It's like with a lot of things with executive dysfunction. If you start to think of all of the perfect ways to do it or the things that could go wrong or the anxiety of it all, it's going to turn into an exhausting big thing and it's going to be a no. But it's really, again, the time weight of it all is like if you go meet up with someone for an hour, you know, it's an hour. So I'm sure you've sat and dissociated for an hour before, so maybe go sit and dissociate in a pizzeria next to someone or something. I don't know, but say yes to plans unless you truly don't want to have plans with that person. Um, be vocal. This is kind of what I was saying before about my profiles on any of the apps that I use. So be vocal about what your boundaries and needs and things are. Don't be afraid. I mean, I think this is across the board. Like if you're use this advice if you're dating too. You cannot scare away the right people. People who are a fit with you. None of you in here are like so freaking toxic that you have to sit here and to pretend to be anybody other than who you are. If you don't mesh with someone while being yourself, it's just not a fit. And why would you want to continue investing your time into a relationship that's just not a fit? It's not nothing personal, right? So don't be afraid to be vocal about what you need. Point in case, let's say, if it's an issue of accessibility, right? I have clients that have a hard time. They have a lot of accessibility needs and support needs. So that is an important part of their friendships. They're not gonna. First of all, everybody on the frigging apps, I think you're all lying. Everybody hikes. Does anyone notice that? Who's been on these apps? Everybody and their mother hikes, apparently. I don't hike, right? So, but for example, my friend, my client who has the um, accessibility needs, they're not going to necessarily match up great with someone who is super outdoorsy, loves hiking, loves, extreme off-road biking. That's just why, you know? So I think it's important being able to like put in your profile or discuss with someone if they're suggesting a get together that's just not great for you. I've had other situations. and this is where before I was mentioning some people you outgrow and some people you start to realize like the more solid you become, the more shitty they seem. And that's an important thing to realize because it's not you. All right. So, in terms of like emotional support needs or whatever, I I had a friend and it was her birthday and she really wanted to go to a sports game. And the tickets for that day, unless you sat in the absolute nosebleeds, like the highest seats, all like you can't see shit. Like, and I get it. The goal was to go there, drink, tailgate. No, who gives a shit about the game was basically it. It was a birthday party, but the only way you could like afford seats that day was if you sat in those nosebleeds. The average person, I should say. And I told her, I was like, hey, I'm really sorry. Like, I love you. I will come to the tailgate. I was like, but when it comes to the seats, like inside, I can't do it. I have such bad anxiety with heights and like and vertigo and like all that. Like I just couldn't do it. I tried it. I went with Nick one time and I had like, I held my pee the whole game, white knuckling it, not being able to like look up. It's just, who wants that on their birthday? So I told her that and I was like, so I'm not going to be able to come, but I will be there beforehand and we will make plans. Like I'll take you out. I would love to like go to a place you love and take you out for your birthday. She still didn't like that. That wasn't a good enough thing for her. So, we're not friends anymore. That's fine. But I think it's important. What would have been the alternative? Me flaking out on her birthday and her just thinking that I didn't give a shit, or me suffering the entire time and for what? So I think it's really important that if you're talking about expanding your village, you have to get, especially on this journey where you're trying to really be okay with yourself and build your self confidence. Don't be afraid if you need to have, there's something special in your relationship because you have special needs of some kind. It's all right. Don't let anyone ever make you feel bad for that. You still deserve to have people in your community, even if you do have those support needs. Have boundaries and be selective. Absolutely. And you know what? Your friendships that you do find, you might not have, 10 people knocking down your door to hang out, but the two people that you're going to talk to, you're going to feel completely comfortable with and actually enjoy your time. It's going to be regenerative. It's going to be a good use of your time out of work rather than depleting you, which tends to be a reason people don't want to build these friendships. That fear. Um, Remember who you are and who you are always allowed to be. Yeah. So be yourself, you know. Um, Make sure that you can unmask around people. And listen, I'm not, this is actually a conversation that's come up with quite a few clients. So if you are hearing this, don't think I am just specifically speaking to you, right? But you might meet people who, if you tell you have these certain needs or whatever, you say, I want to unmask, I want to be myself. They may push you and say, oh, it's okay to do that. I'm cool with that. And they might still be shitty. And I want you to know that that's still not you. That's still them. They're an asshole. That's something they have to work out, or they're just not compatible to be friends with you. But that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be a big part of your selection process, right? Like you said, Becca, be selective. Okay. Even if people change over time, it's okay. It takes a while to really know someone. So just keep that in mind. Okay. What did I say here? Yeah, oh, I said this before. Do things with friends that you want to be able to do alone, but might not make time for. If you need help justifying spending the time that you have outside of work doing anything besides resting, if there's a million reasons that this feels like a big chore to you, then change that by maybe finding friends to do stuff with that stuff you want to do, but have a hard time getting to. Have you really missed out on, I'm making things up. Have you missed crocheting? You used to crochet like the wind, and now you hate your job, and so crocheting feels like you'd love to, but like, meh, you feel uninspired. Find a friend who's into crocheting. Have that be the avenue that you explore. I know it sounds silly, but like there's so many people who are into crocheting. it's also a good like seated activity. So the chronic illness community, um, let's say you are really into, or you want to be more into cleaning and organizing. I don't know, maybe find, it doesn't sound like fun. No, scratch that. It should be for fun. I mean, if you have a friend who will sit with you while you organize, that is a huge asset. That is like some of my best cleaning happens when I just have someone sitting there and body doubling, just talking to me as I do it. So maybe that's a thing. Maybe not something you build a new friendship on, but if you have a current one, that's a way to get together, right? Um, I forgot what I was going to say just now. Damn, I had a really good idea and I didn't write it because it just came to me. I didn't write it down. Tough luck. Um, oh, the themes of the get-togethers, right? So themes, if you're sitting here, like I've been talking about wanting to do a get-together where we make stuff out of clay, right? And it's just, but it's because I want to do that stuff. But what am I going to have another hobby? I got a whole thing of paints behind this computer, right? Sitting, but it looks all nice and neat here, right? You know why? Because I moved it from here to behind the computer. So I'm not going to sit here and want to go buy clay and all the things or whatever. But if it's for a get together with a few of my friends and it gives me an excuse to get really like yummy little hors d'oeuvre platters and then make fun things out of clay, that sounds like a freaking much better time, than me being excited for an hour and then it taking up space in a doom box somewhere. So have fun with friends. When you have the right friends, they like to do that shit with you. I don't know what my hair is doing right now. Okay, so all in all, this is the lead up for, like I said, going forward over the next month. We're going to be working on energy, our mindset. Chastity, I wish I lived closer. I wish you lived closer too. Are you kidding me? We would garden. We always talk about having garden friends. I would be so down. Um, but keep an eye out. I'm going to do something cool with the CCA crew. I got to figure it out. I got to find a way to do it. So I'll keep you guys posted. We'll do something fun. But yeah, energetically, we're going to work on setting ourselves up throughout this month. And then we're going to be in a much better place to goal set and really hit it hard. I'm coming up with a challenge for February and it's going to be a lot of fun. But next week, or I should say this week, like this Thursday coming up, we're going to start working on how to have the abundance mindset and different things when you've been bogged down by stuff in the past. So keep an eye out for that. I encourage you all to text me and I will work out with you how to find more of these connections. I think it's really individual to each of us, like what the best way for that is. So whether it's an app, I can show you different hacks around talking to people in Facebook groups. I promise you will meet weirdos, but they're not the ones you're going to hang out with. So I'll help you find friends. Please text me and let's work it out if you didn't feel inspired by this and you feel lost or whatever. Okay. Or if you just want to bullshit, I love it. I'll help you build your circle, right? I'll help you build your village, but let me know. Okay. I've been wanting to make something with clay. We should do Zoom creative party one day. I was trying to do that with like art club and book club and stuff. I think maybe we should just have like one-offs rather than having it regularly. But if anyone else would like to do those craft Zooms or those art Zooms, like I'm telling you, I always like any excuse to create something is like my favorite thing. So, shit, Hillary, I'll sit on Zoom with you. We will make clay stuff. I don't care. So, all right, guys, enjoy the rest of your night. Happy New Year. I'm so grateful to know each and every one of you. I'm proud of you. I'm not just blowing smoke up your asses. I mean it. Okay. And we're just gonna keep getting better and better. So please text me. Let me know. Enjoy your night. Bye.